Hello guys and welcome back to my channel. I'm really sorry if you hear a dropping water noise in the background because one of our windows is leaking and can't do anything about it at the moment. I hope it will get away soon. Plop. Okay, so I wanted to do an updated podcast video. It's been nearly a year since I filmed the last one and so many things have changed and a lot of things stay the same, but I wanted to give you a few new podcasts to maybe check out and some favorite episodes of mine. So let's start. Also, I will try to link all the special episodes I mention or info I have down below or at the side. The first podcast I have to mention, it's my absolute favorite. And the last video I made, I just started listening to it, so I wasn't over the moon back then, but now I am, and it's the Gilmore Guys podcast. I'm on my Gilmore Girls rewatch, and I always alternate between a Gilmore Guys episode and the Gilmore Girls episode. And the hosts, I really like them so much. I would watch all podcasts they make, I think. And the guests are mostly always really great. I love their live shows. I love the effort they put into it. And yeah, it's just really comforting to listen to. And it's the only podcast where I absolutely listen to every single episode. I guess my favorite episodes are the ones with Jason Mantzoukas. It's just so funny. I can't really remember. There were a lot of episodes I really loved. For example, the episode where they talked to the casting directors of Gilmore Girls. That was really great, really informational. But they have a lot of great guests. If you like Gilmore Girls, you just have to get over maybe the first 10 episodes. Then after that, it's amazing. Then I wanted to talk about the Comedy Bang Bang podcast. And I know a lot of people absolutely love this one and so many people recommend it. I actually have a really hard time getting into it because I don't really know where to start, and it's just confusing to me, all those different characters. And I mean, you could start everywhere and then listen back, but it's better to start at the beginning, but then I would have to catch up on over 200 or whatever how many episodes, and it's just a bit daunting. I tried listening to the best of the year episodes, but it's really hard for me to get into them because I don't really understand the context most of the time. An episode, however, I watched and really loved was the Time Bobby episode. It's with Paul F. Tompkins and he plays Andrew Lloyd Webber. And then there's this other guy, Bobby, I don't know his name. But he plays a backstabbing orphan time traveler. It's just really funny. But if you have recommendations on where to start with Comedy Bang Bang, then please give it to me. I would love to get into it more. Next, I have a podcast, or especially one episode. I think the original podcast was Love and Radio, or it's just a different format of theirs. It's called The Living Room. And it's about a woman who lives opposite a couple in New York, and she can see directly from her living room in their bedroom. And it's just a kind of voyeuristic story, but I listened to it one night where I couldn't sleep and I was crying so much. It was so sad, and I think that's the podcast episode with the most emotional impact I listened to last year, so I wanted to recommend this episode, The Living Room by Love and Radio. Next on my list is a podcast I only got to know this week. It's the Totally Married podcast. It seems to be quite famous. There was Totally Lame, then Totally Married, and now Totally Mommy. It's all from the same woman, and I think her first podcast, Totally Lame, was just her talking to famous people, lots of comedians. I listened to an episode with Aubrey Plaza, for example, and now Totally Married is her and her husband, and they are just talking about everyday stuff like you you listen to them having an evening conversation or something. And then there's Totally Mommy, and it's about her motherhood, and she always has different mothers on there as guests, and they talk about the fun, the bad, and the good things they experienced this week in their parenting. So I haven't listened to that one, and I think this podcast is a little bit different than others because I'm talking about Totally Married. She's talking to her husband, and it's not so flashy like most podcasts. The way they talk is really just like you're listening in on their conversation. It was really nice and comforting, and I can see myself listening to a lot more episodes. And the episode I watched was really lovely. It was the last episode they have at the moment on their channel, and it's about the birth of their second child and how they are now a family of 4. And the mom gave birth in a Volvo, and it's just a super exciting story, and you can totally feel the love between them, and it's just so cute to listen to. Really like that one. The next one I want to recommend is a podcast I think a lot of people might know, and it's called Song Exploder. It's about one piece of music in every episode, a different piece, and they talk about how this piece was made and the inspiration behind it. I made music in the past, and I have a lot of friends who are musicians. But for me, it's always kind of a total mystery how you make a song. I could play really well, but I could never compose anything. It's just not my thing, audio, because I don't know all the music in there. I love the theme musics, for example, House of Cards or Downton Abbey. And so they deconstruct the layers of the music and tell you what the inspiration between certain parts was. And it's just so interesting. And then I have a few podcasts where I don't want to talk too much about them. The first one is for everyone who loved Serial last year. Oh, it's already in 2014, right? Okay. Time is flying by. About Serial, if you loved the first season and you're interested in the case of Heyman Lee and Adnan Syed, I would recommend listening to more podcasts about this topic. And the first one's Undisclosed. I think they are all 3 lawyers. They fight in Adnan's case. And the one is Rabia Chaudhry. And she knew Adnan personally. She's, since day one, fighting for Adnan and to get his side of the story heard. And then there's another lawyer, I think, and she came to the case because of Serial. And the third one, oh, I forgot. But it's really, really good. It's better researched than Serial, I think. Or at least they built their case off of all the new information, and there are a lot more facts that came to light since Serial finished. So this is the continuation of Serial, so to say, and it is really, really good because they are all lawyers. They know a lot about the justice system in general, and it's just great. And the second one is the Serial Dynasty. I think it changed its name to the Truth and Justice podcast, but I don't know if the old episodes are still under Serial Dynasty. It's about a guy who tries to collect information from all the other Serial podcasts and tries to investigate also. And he really tries to look into all suspects again. And there are episodes on all suspects, and he talks with the Undisclosed team, and I really liked his podcast also. So that's for your Serial fix. The next one I want to recommend is if you're an artist, or especially I think if you're painting or drawing, it's the Artists Helping Artists podcast. Everything you need to know from selling your artwork to market your artwork to good studio habits, and just a great podcast, really easy to listen to, great topics. Then I have a fun podcast I just discovered this week, and as you might know, my guilty pleasure is watching The Bachelor and The Bachelorette, And I really love to just talk to someone about the contestants and how crazy they are. Just typical reality show craziness. And we are always doing that on Twitter, but this show also recaps every episode, and it was just fun to listen to. So definitely a recommendation. It's called The Most Dramatic Podcast in Bachelor History. Good pun. And then I wanted to feature another TV show podcast, and it's Dusted, the Buffy podcast. It's by a man named Alistair and a woman, I think his wife, I forgot her name. I think they are making a lot of TV podcasts and writing podcasts. So they really know their stuff when it comes to screenwriting, storytelling, characterization and everything. And they are going through every episode of Buffy and Angel. And I've watched Buffy in the past, but not constantly. So, I mean, it was the 90s when it came on. I've watched it, and otherwise I missed it. And I didn't really care. And I think Buffy was never my favorite show, but a lot of people love Buffy so much. So I wanted to get into it, but I could only do it with someone to watch it with. So I listened to the podcasts after, and they are really greatly made, and they are engaging in their voices. What I like better with the Gilmore Guys than with Dusted is that I feel that Gilmore Guys is more personal, and they are talking more about general concepts and not going through the episode scene for scene. I feel like that can be a bit boring sometimes, because I just watch the episode and then they are talking me in this podcast through scene, and I've already seen it, and it's just sometimes a bit I don't want to listen to everything. But in general it's an amazing podcast, so I would definitely recommend it, especially if you love Buffy. And the last one is by BookTube's own Ashley from Climb the Stacks. I just noticed recently that she has a podcast. Somehow I missed this. And it's a podcast with 3 of her internet friends, and it's called I Feel Better. They are talking about pop culture, like an afternoon with your girlfriends, and it's just also very cozy to listen to. Lots of giggling sometimes, but that's okay. They are really doing a great job, I think, and have interesting topics. So I Feel Better podcast. I'm really excited to listen through all the episodes. And yes, as always, if you have more recommendations for me, I really love storytelling, just great stories in general. Those are my favorites. But I'm also always open for TV show related podcasts or something like that. So I wish you a great week, and I'll see you soon, guys. Bye bye.